Hi everybody, or three of you at the moment. Yeah, I don't know how many people are going to turn up for this stream. It'll be somewhat touch and go, I think. But yeah, this is a special kind of stream, which I'm doing it live. But if you want to watch it after the fact, that's fine. It's a Saturday night. I can imagine that a lot of you are busy doing all sorts of other things on a day or night like this, depending on where you're from. But this is a special that I'm doing on one of my favourite, if not me favourite game, spoiler alert, game of all time, Spirit Island, which I've been playing to death this week to prepare for this stream. So, you know, it's never a bad thing to basically say, oh, you get to play your favourite game in order to prepare for this. Yeah, that's always a good thing. But basically, what I'm doing is slightly stealing an idea of a little, a nice friend of mine from overseas over in the States. So, credit where it's due to the lovely One Pip Wonder, i.e. Jona Minato. Did I pronounce that right? I'm not sure. But basically, One Pip Wonder has got a lovely little channel, hashtag support small creators. By all means, give her a watch. She does a lot of cool, nice little videos, and she's one of the few people around that actually talks about sustainability when it comes to the board gaming hobby. So, you want something a little bit different, as well as the occasional, review and chat and anything Spirit Island related, it's worth going to her. But essentially, oh, don't get the sound on there. Essentially, Jona and her husband Dan basically they did a special where they ranked their favorite spirits. Now, this is not ranked 24 to 1 because there's 24 spirits in this. They essentially did this tier list maker, which, to be fair, I've never used before. This will be the first. And they ranked their favorite spirits. They talked about which ones they played and put them on. I'm not even certain this is all of them. Maybe it is all 24. I'm not sure. But I'm not spoiling their list. This is at the start of their video. But it was quite a good fun talk. I even commented on it. I've liked it. I urge you to go and like it as well. Let's get that above 60 now. And I just thought, you know what, this idea sounded cool. I could use this for a lot of other stuff on this channel. And I thought, well, you know what, I like Spirit Island. People have asked me about this, what's your favourite spirits? I think Jona and I even did a top 5 about Easter time last year. We did one. And, things have changed since then. They're not necessarily going to be as accurate as before. But I just figured, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's just rank my 24, rank all 24 spirits and see how it goes. So, in order to do this, I'm going to be using spiritislandwiki.com as a reference for like the various things like their boards and stuff like that. But I have my own Tiermaker here, which I'm going to minimize myself a little bit so that people can see. In fact, yeah, I think that's probably big enough, although by all means, let me know if that screen is not as big. Maybe it could be bigger. I mean, I could take out the overlay and put myself as a picture-in-picture and make it slightly bigger. In fact, why don't I do that? So, favorite spirits. Let's take that off. Whoop. Put me down there. It doesn't really make it any bigger, really. Nor does that. Nor does that. Oh well, fine. We'll keep the overlay. And we'll just have to go with that. So hopefully it's big enough for everybody to see. That's all I can see on my screen. Hopefully those who are watching have heard of Spirit Island. Otherwise, this is going to be a fun stream for you to watch. But either way, hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So hello to you, sir. Thanks for telling me that the audio and the visuals look good, because frankly, I had no clue, because nobody was here commenting. But by all means, have a chat in the comments about your take with Spirit Island. Dispute what I've said, because one thing I'm going to caveat with this is not based on power level, okay? This is purely me, all right? Purely me, purely my enjoyment. So I could really hate on a spirit that you think is the most powerful in the game. Don't care. I don't enjoy a spirit because it's super powerful. I enjoy it for various other weird reasons that are all to do with me. So that's not going to be a factor here. Also, chances are I'm going to love a spirit that you hate, or hate a spirit that you love. Go figure. That's kind of what happens when you have an opinion on this. There's 24 spirits here. It's a little difficult to decide, how am I going to sort this out? Now, all I need is something to help me decide what I'm going to talk about first. So let's see if I can get like a random number generator. That'll do. Random number generator. There you go. Random number generator. So that I can... Yep, I'll put it on my phone down there, just so that I can essentially go across this border. I've got, what have I got here? 7, 14, 21, 24 spirits. And I'm just going to do a random number generator and see what pops out. So, okay, first up, number 14. 14. 7, 14. Ah, interesting. We have, on this one, we have serpent. No, not serpent. What are they called? They're called, yeah, they are. Serpent slumbering beneath the island. So, this particular spirit, not the easiest one to play by any means. This one is basically a snake that hides around underneath the earth and starts off pretty underpowered at first. You know, essentially with this one you have to hold out for a bit, and then eventually it spirals out of control and gets super powerful. But you gotta last that long, which is easier said than done in solo mode, but can be interesting in a 2-player as well. But they're high complexity, they've got some crazy innate powers, like you can't even think to activate some of these, it's just not gonna happen, and so I wouldn't even try it myself. But yeah, we're going to see, how do I feel about this one? I kind of like it. The thing about this one is that I actually quite like the struggle at the start to say, oh, it's a little bit tricky to get it up to speed, because you've got to, you know, choose very carefully what growth options you do. You want to try and get to this stage of the tree as quick as humanly possible, but all the while you need to obviously not let the invaders go to town on your land while that's happening. He's got quite a good balance of offense, control, fear, but quite a lot of defense and utility, because after all, the snake has to last long enough to get to uber levels. But yeah, I kind of enjoy this one. I haven't played it that often, but it's mainly due to the build-up. You know, it's that thing of come on, come on, come on, come on, boom, and then it spirals out of control and ends up being like really crazy good. So I don't love it. I don't play it that often, and granted, I think it's slightly better outside of solo mode, and that's another caveat. Bear in mind, I play this game 90% true solo, one spirit at a time, so that's going to factor into my enjoyment here. But nah, this one's a pretty solid spirit. You'll notice I've gone for 5 different tiers, which are all named after powers in the game. So, you know, if I find the spirit not particularly great or boring or not that enjoyable, it will be sleep and never waken. But if it's like, oh, I love playing the spirit and I want to play it all the time, it's going to be manifestation of power and glory. So for serpent, I think I'm sticking him under jungle hungers. It's kind of middle of the road. I don't love him, but I don't hate him either. Middle of the road. I like to play it every now and again. Hello to you, Ajan. Hopefully you know about Spirit Island, otherwise this is going to confuse the hell out of you. Got my drink, in fact. Got even other drinks. Bring me back to solo mode briefly. Tonight's stream brought to you by the second finest that Somerset can bring you of Thatcher's cider. Always like a good bit of Thatcher's. Oh, beautiful vintage. Drink responsibly, kids. Right. Okay, next up, random number generator is going to go for number 15. 15. Okay, 15 what we got. So 7, 14... 15. Oh, we are starting with a nice one there. Sharp fangs behind the leaves. Sharp fangs behind the... Oh, I've lost this place, but that's the one I'm doing. Sharp fangs is so beautiful. I love sharp fangs behind the leaves. And if Jona ever watches this stream later on, which I'm sure she will in her own time, yeah, you're wrong. You and Dan are so wrong about this spirit, because on their stream they hate this guy. They're not a fan of this cute little kitty cat. I mean, look at this cute little kitty cat. Look at him. How can you hate that innocent looking kitty cat who's gonna eat all your followers? But I love this spirit. For multiple reasons do I love this spirit. This was one of the first spirits I think I played. In fact, I think it was the first spirit I ever played that I did. Taunton Cider or Sheppy's number 1? Sheppy's. Sheppy's definitely number 1. Sharp Fangs Behind the Leaves is a kitty cat. It's all about fear and a bit of offense and control. Not the best on defense and doesn't have much in the way of utility, but out the gate they're pretty powerful, but they lack late game power. So you gotta kind of get things over with soon and not let the game drag out. But it's all about the beast tokens. This kitty cat likes to get beast tokens all over the place, manipulate them, a bit like what Thunderspeaker does with the Dahan. Essentially, the kitty cat likes to drag all the beasts around and eat people. Now, when I play Spirit Island, I'm a big fan of fear. You know, I can't remember the last time I ever wiped out every single invader. I don't think I've ever done it. Maybe once by fluke, and I can't even recall when. You know, but typically I get to terror level 2 and 3 and win that way. Or I just outright fear victory. So with this one, I like to use the fear thing. So I like to get a lot of fear from eating all the invaders and causing and scaring them. Now, I can go top row for like lots of symbols and big major power, or I can go bottom row for spamming, which is, to be fair, the best way to play this one, I think. I think going down the bottom row, getting those reclaims and spamming so many good minor powers so that you can do these innates all over again, I think that's the best way to play this one. But yeah, it's a kitty cat. It's got cards which essentially have you, like, there's one that I love it. Oh, I forget what it is. Eats the followers or something like that. But the picture is basically a cat like reaching out and dragging this follower like into the jungle, like in order to eat him. That's great. Thematically, I just love this. I'm a kitty cat that's basically going to scare you off the island by eating all your friends. That's just so much fun. I always enjoy this one. People sort of rag on this pet because he's not the most powerful spirit out of the works. I mean, he certainly does have a shall we say, not his power level isn't quite as high as some of the others, which I think is why some people aren't a fan of him. But I love this kitty cat. I don't care what One Pip Wonder says. I love this kitty cat. You are a manifestation of power and glory. I love playing this cat. Alrighty, number generator. We're going to go for 5. 5. 5, 5, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh boy. Oh boy. Fractured time. Fractured. Here we go. Fractured days split the sky. Oh my word. I've only played this spirit once, I am going to say. And I played it in a 2-player game literally 2 days ago. A friend of mine from my Portsmouth club, he's a bigger expert on Spirit Island than I'll ever be. I mean, he's played this like over 100 times. I've played it, 40 to 50, I think, by now? 40 to 50 times. So I've only played it half as much as he has. And to be honest, actually, no. 100 isn't as much as he's done. I think he's done several hundred. He's played it a ton. So I figured I need to learn what is probably the most complex spirit in the game. Therefore, I need some help. So we played a 2-player and I piloted this spirit with his help to understand what he does. Very high complexity. There are only 3 spirits that are like this, so that is how crazy they are. But this one basically messes around with time tokens. So your presence track, as well as getting off your board onto the lands, the time tokens come off your presence track. So you keep juggling around with how much is on your presence track and how much isn't. But the time tokens are then used to pilot some of your cards. But then you also have something called Days That Never Were, which is at setup you have some discarded power cards that are kind of like a bank of cards that you can pick from at a later date. There's a lot going on with this guy, and some of the effects are crazy complicated. One of them, I kid you not, we nearly burnt our brains out trying to figure out how it would work, because it essentially takes my board and says invaders get 1 fewer of all their actions. So essentially it meant they did nothing. But it doubled what they got on my teammates' board. So we had to try and work out how they worked out twice over all their actions. It was crazy complicated. Now, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of playing the most heavily complex spirits when I'm playing true solo, because I kind of don't want to burn my brain out too much, I did actually enjoy this spirit quite a bit. This juggling act you do with these presence tracks is really good fun. The innates are pretty powerful as well. Now granted, these ones are slightly better with a co-op player, but even alone it's not too bad. I mean, allowing yourself to resolve a slow fast, get a power card back, paying 1 straight away, this can be fun for you. But then looking at the invader or event deck and deciding to put it on the bottom also, that was pretty useful as well. So I got a kick out of playing this one. I thought pretty solid. Thematically, though, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, because this guy essentially is he splits time. I mean, does it mention? No, it doesn't really mention the lore too much. Let's see if I can get it. So, yeah, he's all about like future and past events, and essentially he's like a heavenly spirit and occasionally comes by. But when I think Spirit Island, I think animals, elements, nature, stars, that kind of thing. Not heaven and time. I mean, this wibbly wobbly timey wimey just doesn't seem right for this spirit. So thematically, I find it a bit of a disconnect when I play it, but that's just a smaller nitpick. But in terms of Fractured, I did enjoy it. It's probably the second favourite of the very high complexities that I like. But I would probably say I'm happy to put him in Jungle Hungers, actually. I found I don't think I'm going to play this spirit very often because of its complexity, but I enjoy the mechanics surrounding him, even if thematically it's a bit of a disconnect. Okay, random number generator for number 10. Number 10, okay, take a swig first. Yeah, only 14 people watching. Ah, well, fair enough. It's a Saturday night it's a Saturday night in the UK. It's a Saturday daytime in the US. I'm not expecting 100 million people to be watching the Spirit Island only stream. But okay, number 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, hello. Many minds move as one. This is similar to the whole way that Sharp Fangs works. So Many Minds Move at Once is basically all about beasts again, except they work slightly differently to Sharp Fangs. If you imagine that Sharp Fangs is all about big beasties, Many Minds is all about many beasties, as this picture suggests. And I gotta admit, this is one of my favourite pictures of the spirits, because if you look very closely, you can see that the birds make out essentially a bit like a human face. You can see the nose, you can see the eyes, you can see like the chin, the side of the head and the eyes. I mean, that's like, it's all good. So, you know, honestly, I love this picture. This picture is really, really cool. Now, Many Minds is probably one of the most powerful spirits in this game, I think. You can do so much crazy stuff with this spirit. You can add your presence around, you can gather beasts and move them around all over the shop, and when you spam cards with this one, like go down the bottom route, you can do some crazy things with the beasts, and I really enjoy them. I mean, essentially, you get to gather and push all the beast tokens everywhere. You get to, do you get to move with them? That's Sharp Fangs, hang on. Oh no, when you gather or push beasts, they can come from like 2 distant lands, so they can basically go crazy. And your sacred sites, which is what this little symbol is here, where you've got 2 presence discs on the same land, count as beasts. So you end up with a ton of beasts everywhere. What do you do with those beasts? You beset and confound the invaders by basically causing a shed load of fear and defense. So you can essentially generate so much fear with this spirit while defending your lands, as well as let the Dahan do the killing, or let the beast do the killing, and you essentially can defend your lands and do what I love in this game, which is generating fear. As you can see, not much in the way of offense. Control, fear, and defense, though, is like they can hold their own. They cause so much fear. When I'm playing this one, I'm usually going out for full-out fear victory. Just hold out, generate a ton of fear. Don't even worry about kicking the invaders off. Just hold out until you get to that fear card. That auto wins you the game. So really enjoy this one. It's got such a cool picture. The theme is great. The fact that it's just got so much fear generation, it's unreal. Well, second to maybe another one we'll get onto later. And you have 5 unique power cards. So you even start with slightly more things. And I like messing around with these beast tokens. The beast tokens are good fun. The idea that you pull up an event card and occasionally a beast might just decide to go home and just eat a curious thing. Vincent says team up with Sharp Fangs is really fun. I couldn't agree more, because we've done that. I have played a 2-player game where I took Sharp Fangs and my friend took Many Minds, and we just went to town on them. It was like pretty good one. But yeah, I love this spirit. The spirit is fantastic. It is easily up there, along with Sharp Fangs. Manifestation of power and glory. Really, really enjoy this spirit. Okie dokie, only 9 people watching. Alright, well, let's take that as a random number and go for number 9. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is an interesting one. What's it called? Lure Beneath the Wilderness? No, Lure of the Deep Wilderness. Here we go. It's basically I'm not entirely certain what it is. I like to say it's a frog, or toad, or something like that, but it is a little odd, if you would imagine. It's an alien frog creature with a big giant light on its head. It's somewhat weird. But either way, this one is the opposite of another one called Ocean's Hungry Grasp. Ocean's Hungry Grasp is a spirit that can only deal with the ocean and the coastal lands, while Lure of the Deep Wilderness is the opposite. It sucks on the coast, but is all about inland. So as long as it doesn't have to deal with the coast, it can drag people into the inland areas and then wipe them out. It's a hit and miss as to which row I like to go down with this one, the top or the bottom row. I kind of intermingle, and it seems to work fine either way. But Surf says looks like a mutated plant. Yeah, you're probably not too far wrong, but yeah, it's something weird. But those are clearly eyes and a mouth, so It's odd. I mean, it's basically some mutation of nature, I guess. But this one, here you go. Your presence can only go to lands that are inland. You can't even set foot on the coast. However, for each of your presence in the land, you can ignore up to 2 explorers during the Ravage step. That's pretty handy when you got a lot of people going around the place. There's a couple of adversaries that really don't like this guy. But this one is really cool because when you get them into the inland... land-based anglerfish, as Vincent says. That's not too bad, actually. But these innate powers, pretty sweet. They essentially replace like buildings with explorers and then kill off the explorers while generating fear. It's almost a bit like it lures people in, so hence lure the deep wilderness. So it's imagine that somebody on the outskirts is seeing the loved ones that have passed away, like a mirage or something like that, and it's like calling them in. It's like, come into the inland wilderness, and then they go follow, and then the wilderness screws them over. You know, it's that kind of theme, which is pretty sweet and pretty creepy at the same time. Not a lot of defense though. You have to be pretty good with your control and fear generation and offense, but it is a pretty sweet one to play. I personally prefer Ocean's Hungry Grasp of the two of them, but this one is still pretty good fun. It's pretty powerful, does its job well, and I like the fact that it's got a clear strength with a clear weakness. So it can't survive on the coast, but man does it work well inland, and especially when you play this one solo, you've got to somehow work with that. You've just got to accept that the coast is a bit of a write-off and lure them inland. But we mentioned 2-player team-ups. Team this guy up with Ocean's Hungry Grasp, and you got a nice fun one there. But yeah, I like this one. It's good fun. A nice flaw to go with a good strength, and it likes all the tokens. All those tokens that you've got in the Branch of the Claw, whatever, Jagged Earth expansions. It likes to just have all these tokens everywhere, which is also a nice bit of fun. So, I like this one, but I don't love it. I don't love it. But I certainly think Spur with Words of Fire. It suits this one pretty well. Okay, random number generator. We're going to go for 16, 16, 16. 7, 14, 16. Thunder Speaker. This could land me in some deep water with a few people here. Yeah. Thunder Speaker, here you are. Now, I love this picture. Gotta say, I do love that artwork. That is a pretty sweet artwork of a kind of, looks like a Dahan native that's basically like phenomenal cosmic power. Like, you know, you see this thing, it's gonna kill you. You know, it's really sweet artwork. But I'm actually not the biggest fan of this one. And a lot of people love her to bits. Now, she does focus around an area... Ooh. There you go, sorry, minor blip there with the Wi-Fi, it's so good. Thunder Speaker, so, oh my word. Now, I like using the Dahan on it. They're like, I call them the Mushroom Kingdom. They're basically the natives. I like using them against the enemy and letting them do my dirty work. That's good fun. But, the problem I have with this character is that she either works so well, or she crashes and burns horrifically. I find her too fragile. Because I actually played her twice again today, before the stream, to actually see, okay, what are my final thoughts on Thunder Speaker, right? First game I played, I signed off after 3 turns. Because literally I found the first 2 power cards I got were useless. I had nothing to defend against any like towns and buildings, and Dahan would just die, and that just seemed like a waste of time. Then I reset and played again. The first 2 power cards I got were defense cards. Defend 5, defend 4, perfect. And as soon as I had those 2 in play, everything spiraled out of control, and I ended up trashing the enemy. And who was I playing against? Prussia. I think I was playing against Prussia, so they've got an accelerated like invader deck, and I trashed them with grabbing those 2 power cards. And herein lies the problem I have with Thunder Speaker. It's too fragile. She's so dependent on the powers you get. It's ridiculous. I can't survive the whole game on just the 4 powers that she has. Which is why I don't know how you're ever supposed to make her work going on the top row, where you only get a tiny bit of energy. You get the elements, which is nice considering her innate powers are quite hard to trigger. I mean, let's face it, I can't remember the last time I ever triggered the 4 air one to make these fast. But honestly, I think you have to go down the bottom road. You have to go to minor powers, find the ones that either influence Dahan or defend areas, spam the bottom row. That's where I think it is. Maybe grab that air symbol, but mainly I just focus entirely on that bottom row. But I also don't like her growth options. She has to pick one out of these three. Now, adding a presence and getting 4 energy, really cool. She doesn't get a lot of energy, so it's a nice spur of energy. The other one is add 2 to presence. I don't find myself using that often, actually. I tend to prefer to get the energy, because adding 1 presence is nice, but you don't get much energy benefit from it. So unless you're going to go to another bracket of card plays, you're almost better off just getting the extra energy. But I hate the fact that she has to reclaim all her cards before she ever gets any more cards. When you reclaim, you don't put any presence out, so you're slowing down your growth. But then you get 2 power cards and you hope that they're good. If they're not, I just find she crashes and burns. And as a result, I'm just not the biggest fan of playing her. I get that when she works, she is super powerful. There are people I have seen do magic with her, and even I've done magic with her. But it's all dependent on those minor powers you get, and I just think that you need to get some defense powers with her, because honestly, the one she starts with isn't that good. You know, it costs you 2 energy, or 1 or 2 energy, I think. It's 3 defense, which is not that much. I mean, it'll protect you from a town and city, but that's about it. You know, if anything else is there, then you're screwed. And then the damage is done simultaneous with invaders and Dahan. So it doesn't necessarily protect the Dahan. It just means that they'll just kill each other at the same time. So I really don't... I'm not a fan of her starting cards. And she doesn't generate a ton of fear unless the Dahan are doing stuff for her. That's just... I don't know, it really is too dependent on those power cards. And some spirits are a bit like that, but I find with her it's even more. So with Thunder Speaker, I know she's a favourite for many. Now, I don't think she's horrible, and I certainly don't get bored playing her. But she is going to be drift down into slumber, because I just find it a little bit irritating that I have to play it the exact same way every time I play her, and hope that I get those powers. People might shoot me down in the comments later after the stream is done in the long run saying, what, you need to play Thunder Speaker better, but that's just my experience with her. You know, she can be cool, that's why she's not Sleep and Never Waken, but yeah, just so fragile. And that, you know, no other spirit apart from one that we'll talk about later have I ever thought, you know what, I'm going to reset the game because I don't think I can ever pull it back. Thunder is one of them though. All right. Let's go random number generator for number 4. 444. Hello, birdies. Birdie. And yes, don't worry. I get it. We agreed to disagree on that one. I know that people are going to disagree heavily with this Thunder Speaker one. Hello, Jonathan. Hello. Thank you. Righty. So, number 4, anyway. Finder of Paths Unseen. This one I played a couple of times earlier this week. And bearing in mind, I played this game mostly true solo. So this is going to have a big influence on my thoughts with this particular thing. This is one of the promo spirits, and it's, I think, the second promo spirit. Lovely picture, lovely little bird. Now, here's the problem. I played her true solo. I understand that this bird is super good when you play it in co-op mode. And I can see why. She's very high complexity, because basically this bird gets to negate any sense of range. You know, you essentially go, where's the powers that she has? Yeah, open the ways. She can essentially make 2 lands adjacent at any time. Crazy useful that is, particularly with your teammates. The problem is, this bird doesn't like destroying people, because if it happens, you have to lose your presence and energy. That's pretty horrible. I mean, in true solo, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? I have to get the Dahan to do everything for me. These innates, not bad, but you're going to find it very difficult to, you know, trigger more than one of these innates. And then this, again, because the powers are so mixed, you'll be lucky to ever repeat the power. You're essentially just doing a tiny little push effect. So these innates are not that particularly interesting. Isolate is a new ability in Jagged Earth which basically takes it out of the game temporarily for the purposes of Explore. But, man, it confuses with some of the rules of the cards. And in solo mode, she's very hard to pilot in solo mode, because you have very little you've got next to no offense. In fact, she has negative offense, because if you kill anything, you suffer. She's the ultimate control freak, which is cool and fun to play. But then what do I do with said control? You know, she doesn't have the offensive power to kill them off easily in solo mode. Not enough fear generation to go down that route. A little bit of defense, a little bit of utility, but it just makes her a weird solo spirit. Now, I do like this whole thing of you can go all the way across and backwards along this weird presence track in whatever order you like. That's pretty sweet. Although, you really do need to get the card plays a turn ones pretty soon. So I tend to want to go like down here and backwards to get the card plays, or I just start at the bottom and go all the way across the card plays. But the problem is with doing that is you have very little energy unless you take this +2 energies. You've got to find really cheap powers. So I'm not the biggest fan of her. Now, my opinion could go up in the future if I play her as a co-op spirit. But I have no use to play this spirit in solo anymore. It burnt my brain trying to figure out some of the complexities. But hang on a minute, that's adjacent now, so I can make that adjacent, which means that power can work over there. It really was almost headache-inducing trying to figure this one out. More, in some ways, as bad as Fractured Split the Sky. But yeah, this is my least favourite out of the very high spirits. In fact, so much so that unless I'm playing her in a co-op mode, I've got no real interest in playing the spirit again. She is a sleep and never waken for me. Alrighty then, next up we're going to have... Oh, actually, next up I'm going to have a drink of cider. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Right. We need more people to watch this. Oh well, we got the big fans in the chat. You're all great people. So, what do we got? Let's start with number 9. 9. 7, 8, 9. Ah, interesting. River Surges in Sunlight. River Surges in Sunlight. One of the low complexity spirits from the base game. Here we go. This one, I love the picture. I love the whole thing that they look like these sort of like water globule things. It's an interesting one there. But essentially, it's all about flooding the land. So this is not so much an offensive spirit, although you can eventually build up some half-decent offense. It's more the fact that this guy is like one of the ultimate control freaks. It's essentially based around the and very low complexity. I mean, these growth options are not particularly, interesting. I mean, you can get a little bit of energy, or get some presence, or get a card and presence. I mean, that's pretty much it. These are the most simplistic growth option I think there is. But you can get a half-decent amount of energy, you can get some decent card plays quick. But again, it's not particularly, like, what's the word? Complicated? Not complicated at all. But as Vincent says, yeah, pair this guy up with Ocean's Hungry Grasp and he's your new best friend. I mean, they're both water. But having your wetlands count as sacred sites can be pretty cool, considering your massive flooding requires you to have it. But this is essentially your big offensive power. If you can get it set up so that somewhere you've got all these innate symbols, you can do a fair amount of damage to the area, like especially if you can get the big one. 2 damage to each invader is pretty powerful. But even the second bit, 2 damage would kill a town, and you can push a lot of stuff, and that is essentially what River is all about. Control, bit of offense, sucks at fear and defense though. You've got to be pretty crafty with this one. You can't just autopilot River. You need to plan ahead for these slow powers, because I don't think the River has any fast powers, or if they do, they don't have many of them. And so you have to figure out, right, well, where's the enemy going to be by the time they do their invader phase? It's going to be there and there. So they're going to ravage on those next turn. I need to get them out of there first. So, fine. Cool. We'll essentially push them out of the way now and let them go. But I enjoy this one. He's a pretty cool spirit to use. Definitely, I don't know if I want to give this to somebody who's new to the game, because the idea of preparing for, like, pushing them out of the way is a little bit more tricky to get your head around. I mean, I know he's a low complexity spirit, but I don't know, trying to juggle around slow powers with pushing stuff is not as easy as it seems with Spirit Island. But you've only got to deal with 1 innate power, a very simple special rule. I quite like the aspects you get with this one. I mean, travel can do some weird shenanigans with Dahan, and I quite like the sunlight one or something. It replaces the rule with a kind of way to get energy and give your teammates energy. I quite like that one as well. And when I say aspects, it's basically in Jagged Earth, was it Jagged Earth or Promo 2? But I think it was Promo 2. And essentially what they did was that they brought in these cards that replaced or augmented rules of some of the earlier low complexity spirits to make them a little bit more desirable after a while. And yeah, they are really cool. They really do chop and change up these spirits quite nicely with these. But yeah, I like River. It's middle of the road, or probably one of my more favourites of the low complexity spirits. So not Manifestation of Power and Glory, but I quite like this one, so I'm sticking it in Spur with Words of Fire. Alright, next up we have 15. 7, 14, 15. Okay. So here we go. We have another of the low complexity spirits. This time we have, what's he called? Where is it? Where are you? Here we go. Vital Strength for the Earth. I think I made the mistake of, well, a little history lesson. When I first played Spirit Island, I wasn't the biggest fan. I understood it had a lot of potential, but I had a very bad teach. Didn't know what the game would be like. 3 players. Guy didn't know the rules that well. I certainly didn't know the rules at all. And I chose this spirit as my first one. Maybe that was a bit of a mistake. Because this one is not the easiest one to pilot. For 2 reasons. Firstly, very slow. This guy has a very powerful presence track. I mean, look at the energy track. You're not going to be playing too many cards with this guy, but you'll be playing some major powers and doing it with gusto. But he doesn't get his presence out very quickly. It's a slow process of one at a time, and eventually becomes insane, but you're going to need to get to that point. And this gift of strength, it gets used every now and again, but not often. I mean, to get that kind of innate ability with those symbols, you've got to be going pretty heavy on the bottom row. And to be fair, I don't think I've ever played this spirit focusing on the bottom row. I don't know how you would make that work. I mean, I guess you would trigger this innate quite often, so you would be spamming miners even more so. Hard to say, really. I mean, I don't know, has anybody had experience trying that? Typically, I tend to go upper row. But yeah, he's not the most fun spirit in the world, though. I mean, in fact, Vincent beat me to it. He's boring. Fair enough. Yeah, that's the thing. Because he's quite slow, it takes a while before he really kicks in the high gear. Now, I do like the fact that he's very good on defense. You know, not a lot of spirits are easy good defense, and this Earth's Vitality to defend free in every land where you have a sacred site is insanely useful. I love that power and then some. The aspects do some weird stuff with him. He has an aspect where it's a case of defends from blight, but then he's got another weird crazy one that turns him into an offensive character rather than a defensive one. I don't know how you would make that work. It doesn't look like a particularly great aspect, but yeah, I mean, I like comparing him to Rockbiter at A Neverending Story. He's fine, but I don't often play him. I say I don't have a major dislike for this spirit. It's just doesn't tend to get picked over a lot of the other ones though. So with that said, I'm going for Drift Down into Slumber with this guy. You know, like I say, I would play him over Finders, definitely. Would I play him over Thunder Speaker? Probably, actually. You know, I'd probably tweak it with the aspects, but I'd play him over Thunder Speaker. But yeah, he is kind of down there. Okie doke, what have we got now? 7, 14, we got 15 spirits to go. So, random number generator, please. We have 12. 12. Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ah, okay. This will be a fun one. Starlight, can you hear me, my friend? Can you tell me again? That song always plays in my head every time I play this particular spirit. Starlight seeks its form. This is the final one of the very high complexity. So here you go. Very high complexity. Whew, it's a big one. But this is build your own spirit. Is essentially what Starlight is. The presence track is, well, have a look at this thing. Right. That's the presence section. And then you have all the innate powers. What on earth is going on with this character? Especially when all the summary of powers are like all the same across the board. That's because Starlight basically has you cherry pick what you want to do. So you pick 3 growth options, but you've only got some pretty boring ones to begin with. But when you take your presence off the board, they can come from here, you know, which is, they can come from the normal presence bit, which is the energy in the card plays down here, or they can come from these alternative growth tracks. When you empty a whole row out, you essentially choose one of the powers to ignore, and the other one you get as another growth option for the rest of the game. So you can basically decide, well, what do I really need this game based on what my opening game has been? Am I getting a lot of major powers? Well, then maybe I should get this growth option here. Am I a bit concerned about damaging towns? Are they just popping up all over the place? So maybe I need to do this 2 damage one here. Maybe I need more card plays and the ability to play powers quickly. Okay, well, I could go for this one instead. And then when you take them off these element stars, you get a permanent element. So that helps with this bit down here. 5 different innate powers. Now, your starting cards are only going to be able to help you to do this guidance one here. The others are going to entirely depend on what your early powers are. If you pick up a few minor powers and it's like, oh, they're focusing a bit on green and red. There you go. Wood seeks growth, humans seek freedom. Use that power. I think the last time I've only played this one once. And I will say, I've only played this one once. I played it earlier this week. And when I was getting cards, I ended up getting a mix of purple and orange with my powers. So I was doing quite a bit of this one. Occasionally used the defend 5, but mainly I used it for this push effect, which did come in handy. But I was always able to regularly trigger the 2 damage one from there. So I was at least doing some damage. And then with these, I think I messed around more with card plays and elements than anything else. But like I say, probably not the most optimal way to play it, but certainly I had fun. It's a head scratcher because you've really got to decide where on earth am I going to go. I mean, you've got to basically choose one of these innate powers and spam and focus on it, as well as where you're going to focus all this. It requires a lot of pre-planning, but it is fun. I mean, Jonathan has it in his top 3, and Jen loves it as well. So, you know, it's a very popular spirit. And to be honest, I really like him too. Maybe not quite to the levels of some others, mainly because it is like a very high complexity one. But yeah, it's solid. DIY spirit. You know, it's complex, but the way that it can basically like be a different spirit every time you play, depending on those, it's really cool. But don't try this spirit out until you're very familiar with the game. I will tell you that. But he's quite cool. He's definitely my favourite at the very highs. So he's going on with Spur on with Words of Fire. Oh boy. Alrighty. Ooh, 42 minutes in. We still got a bunch of spirits to go. Okay, let's get a move on. Right. I don't want to take too long tonight because I want to go watch some more Alice in Borderlands this evening. Okie doke. So we got 14 left. Random number generator. I did it. And 7. 77777. Ah, hello birdie. Hello another birdie. This is the one I give to new players. Alright, so you are brand new to Spirit Island. You have never seen it before. You have no idea what's going on about slow, fast, and invaders. I give you a Lightning Swift Strike, the ultimate gateway spirit for this game. Now that's not to say that this gateway spirit, Lightning Swift Strikes, which is basically a giant electric, like a bird made out of lightning, which looks cool already. I want that picture on my wall. But I actually enjoy playing this one quite a bit for a few reasons. Firstly, just because it's a gateway level spirit does not make it not fun to play, nor does it make it any less powerful. This spirit is pretty good. It takes a little bit of time to set up, but when you get it to the point where, I mean, it's already playing a lot of cards to begin with, so you can play 6 cards at a time with this character. I'm not even sure if I've ever taken it that far. Granted, they gotta be cheap ones, but you can do it. But then you could use this growth option to get a ton of energy over time, get yourself a major, go across the top row, and then play some massive damaging power, which goes very nicely with your Thundering Destruction, which is basically get the innates and destroy towns and cities. Unfortunately, to do your innate pretty well, you're gonna need a shed load of innates. In fact, you pretty much just should assume that you're never going to trigger these last 2 levels. These last 2 levels are ridiculous, but you could do the top 2. Very offensive spirit, quite good for fear, so it's already doing probably, well, I quite like fear and defense overall as my 2 favorite aspects, but, you know, offense and fear is still really good. It's a good one because you're blowing stuff up. Of course they're going to be scared of you. What do you expect? But here's my favorite reason I like this character. The ability. For every purple you have, you may use 1 slow power as if it were fast. Oh God, that's so useful. One of the cards it's got actually allows other players to play their cards fast, and believe me, they love you for it. But if you hate the fact that you've got to pre-plan slow powers, if you always looked at this power and thought, oh, this would be so good if I could just play it now, well, pretty much most of his powers are fast, and the ones that aren't, because you are littered with these air symbols, you will be playing pretty much your entire portfolio of cards fast. It's just, you know, using your cards to make other people's innates fast, like Vincent says, is definitely something you should be doing. But I just love the fact I don't have to mess around with slow spirits. I mean, you can almost speed play this one, which is fitting considering it's a lightning bird. But yeah, simple to pilot, simple to operate, but satisfying. I mean, I get to blow up lots of stuff. Who doesn't like that? I get to generate fear. I love that. I know other people aren't as fan of the fear, but yeah, I really like this one, so much so that I think Lightning Swift Strikes is my favourite of the low complexity. Actually, is he the favourite? I think it probably is. Yeah, it probably is, although, well, we'll get onto that a bit later. But yeah, definitely one to like. Now, is it quite a manifestation of power and glory? No, not quite. But I would probably say it's definitely a contender for... I think most of these spirits are going to sit in spur on with Words of Fire, to be honest. That's where I kind of see them going. But yeah, Lightning Swift Strikes, it's definitely going up there. He's definitely a good favourite. So, alright, next up we have... Six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keeper of the Forbidden Wild. My experience with this one is quite dated, I will admit. Although, remember that Fractured Time, Splits the Sky, whatever game I mentioned earlier? My friend was playing this one, Keeper of the Forbidden Wilds, and we were able to do some interesting shenanigans together. But, I don't know. It's a wall that it grows slowly but gets very powerful once it, effectively gets rooted, because it is essentially the trees. Can end up with a stupid amount of energy. It is kind of ridiculous, really. Can even spurt its growth very quick if you've got the energy to do it. But doesn't like to harm. You know, anytime you create a sacred site, you got to push all the Dahan away from there. So he's kind of like saying, look, I don't like the invaders being on my land. I also don't like the Dahan being on my land. Get off. I don't like this. But the innates are pretty cool, but they are kind of a mishmash of symbols. I mean, trying to find earth and fire in the same card is not easy, although sun and fire is usually quite straightforward. But yeah, the innates are kind of a bit like mad. Alright, no worries, Jen. We'll see you soon. Quite good on the offense, quite good on defense, but this one's not so much about causing fear. It's more like I can hold out for a bit by putting wild tokens everywhere so that the opponent the AI can't explore, and then eventually rising up with like some really cool power. I like it, but not that much. I tend to keep skipping this one, and I don't know why exactly. It's not that it's a bad spirit, it's not that it's not very powerful, but I just don't tend to find myself enjoying this one as much. But it's hard to comment on it. It's a slow build, maybe that's a problem, and it doesn't have quite the obscene payoff as maybe Serpent Slumbering Under the Earth. Maybe it's just the fact that it's a fairly boring looking spirit. I mean, it's just basically a wooden tree with some moss on it. I mean, I've seen better looking Ents. Maybe it's because if you don't get the right powers when you draw cards, these innates become increasingly difficult to do. I don't know, I mean, he's fine. I just don't tend to really aim for this one that much. So, with that being said, I'm kind of more leaning towards... drift down into slumber for this one. As I say, it's a powerful spirit. I just don't tend to really go for him that much. Maybe thematically I'm just not as interested in him. But yeah, I sort of play him and then I go, well, that exists. So it's not that I dislike him in any way. It's just kind of it's there. I played it. I had fun, but I'd rather play a lot of other spirits. Alrighty, next up I have 10. 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, this is probably going to be a heated debate with some people. Stone's Unyielding Defiance. When I played this person for the first couple of times, did not like. Played him this week to try and see if there was a bad play or whether there was some other reason why I didn't like this guy. Still don't like him. I really don't like this guy. And it's not necessarily to do with him being not powerful. I mean, he can be, although it's kind of weird. It's just his play style. His starting powers are not particularly interesting. They've got weird names, which is funny, but their artwork is horrible. There's nothing interesting to look at, and they're not the most interesting of starting powers. They just basically generate the occasional bad land and a little bit of defense or just a little bit of pushing. They don't do a lot. But the other thing is that this playstyle just doesn't suit me. With this one, you've got all the Earth icons in the world. I'm still not entirely certain which way you should build this spirit. Whether you should... actually, to be honest, I can't see why you would go down the bottom row. I mean, you don't get any extra card plays for ages. How are you ever supposed to survive on one card play a turn? You never are going to do that. So you've got to go to top row. And you get card plays there. So you get energy and card plays on the top row. Now, granted, you get all the Earth icons down the bottom, but then if you get the power cards with Earth icons, then you don't need the Earth icons here until the late game. So I found myself being pigeonholed into always going along the top, then go along the bottom eventually. No other way I could find playing it. But then this is also a character that likes to blight the land. It basically goes around and says, oh, you're going to blight the land? That's fine. I'll pay some energy and I'll take it out of the box. Land's still blighted, but, you didn't take it off the blighted island card, so you're not losing the game any quicker. Which doesn't gel with me. I'm trying to stop the invaders blighting my land full stop. The idea that I'm just going to casually let them ravage my land just kind of seems weird. And I haven't really got to grips with the best way to play this one. I hate the fact that these innates are so ridiculous eventually. I mean, you can just about manage the 5. You should be able to manage the 4, but 6 and 1 and 7 and 2? That's an insane amount of elements required for those. And they're not exactly the best of abilities. I mean, you get to take the blight out of the box for cheap with 4 mountain. Great, that's a really good ability. When an event or blight card directly destroys presents, you may prevent any number of presents from being destroyed by paying 1 energy each. That's a very, very situational power to be worth that much in the way of innates. So I'm not the biggest fan of that power. And the other one I've never repeated. And it's not the most damage either. I mean, but then it requires your opponent, the AI, to damage the land so badly that you can retaliate. And I just don't know how to really pilot that. Hello to you, Sojarushi Steve, right, from the Eastern USA. Thanks for tuning in. So, yeah, I find him a bit boring. I don't know really how to pilot this one. The playstyle does not suit me. I mean, looking at this, there's defense, but it's not the kind of defense I'm used to. I'm not really defending the land. I'm just simply letting the land go to pot in a different way. So I don't even get that much offense out of him. So yeah, not much control, not much fear, a weird play style. The concept is cool, but yeah, I don't particularly like this one. Down, sleep and never waken. If I don't play the spirit again, I'm not really going to lose sleep over it. Oh, that tastes so good. All right. What do we got there? We got 11 more. Random number generator 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello, Oceans. We were just talking about your friend River earlier, and we were talking about your polar opposite lure of the deep wilderness. So why don't we talk about the second of 2 high complexity spirits out of the base game? Curious, actually. What's this one? Yeah, Phil, I'm not selling that one. Yes, I'm not the biggest fan of stones, and but however, Mitsuko, I played him once true solo, and he was amazing. Want to play him again now. I say, this is just my enjoyment of the spirit. Some people really like stones unyielding defiance. Even in a multiplayer game, I just never really got to grips with him. So, yeah, not the fan. Ocean, on the other hand, love this spirit. I love this one. This one goes to show that when the designers made this game, they really paid attention to the theme and how these spirits work. This is the opposite of Lure of the Deep Wilderness, so functions fantastic on the coast, can't go inland. But look at this presence track here. You essentially add your presence in the ocean, where you normally don't go, and then your other growth options gather into the ocean from the coast, and then push it onto the coast. It's exactly how waves work. That's just brilliant. That blows my mind how the mechanics of this one feels exactly how ocean waves do, and how they didn't just put in some random mechanics. They actually thought hard about how to make the spirit feel like it is. But also, this is what I like to call the Kirby spirit, because this guy basically drowns people in the ocean. Not a lot of energy, but that's because the ocean basically gets, here we go, drowning. Destroy drowned pieces, which basically means putting them in your ocean, and then they go into your sort of bank or pool bank, and then essentially you exchange X health based on number of players for energy. So that's how you get your energy spurts. In a 3 and 4 player game, Oceans is a little bit hard to pilot because you have to exchange quite a lot of invaders in order to get any energy. But man, in solo mode, it's not easy to make up for his weakness, the fact that he can't go inland. But in a 2 player or 1 player game, the energy ratio is so good. Absolutely love it. I just love being there basically. Have you seen the Kirby meme? I wonder if I can find it. Kirby eating meme, was it? If I can find it, yeah, here we go. This meme here. That is me as Ocean's Hungry Grasp. We essentially had one game where we used the power where we were able to merge a bunch of lands together and create one giant ocean. I was basically this Kirby. This was me at that end, just basically going, just eating all these invaders at high speed to, go nuts with this. It's so much fun playing this one. It's thematic. Pair it with River, as Vincent said, and Ocean basically gets fed by River. That's why the combination is so good. Interesting. It feels like a Jagged Earth spirit ahead of its time. But then, honestly, it's a high complexity spirit, but mainly because you can't go inland. But it's not too difficult to understand how the spirit works, so I guess it's fine in there. But yeah, I love this guy. Love it. Love playing this one whenever I get a chance, solo or multiplayer. It's so much fun. You are clearly up there with Manifestation of Power and Glory because you're thematic, you're fun, you're interesting, and your innate powers are brilliant. I mean, look at this. You can drown stuff on the coastline, or you can just generate a ton of fear. And look, offense, control, fear, defense. He's pretty good at a lot of stuff. He just has that big weakness. But yeah, in terms of this one solo, you have to accept that you can't deal with the inland very well. So you've either got to use different minor powers that you pick up, or that have a long range, or you have to accept that the inland is just going to get slightly screwed, or you've got to use your normal starting power to draw people towards the coastline so that you can do stuff to them. But yeah, you have a bit of a problem with range, so it does have that issue. And yes, I go heavy fear with this one, so max out the fear and it's go crazy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. One of my favorites. Manifestation of Power and Glory. Best at Star Trek. Well, I wish I was best at Spirit Island, but nope. No interest in this game at all, don't know why, but a fan of games. Fair enough, but I'm glad you're here to listen, despite the fact you won't understand the thing I'm talking about. Right, so 7-10 left. 4. This is an interesting one. That is the Trickster, isn't it? Yes, that is the Grinning Trickster. Grinning Trickster stirs up trouble. This is a weird spirit, lore-wise. I mean, it's like this 3-headed monstrosity goblin thing. I mean, it's got like a little, I don't know, almost kind of like a fox dog type head there with 3 eyes. It's got like a raptor bird head there, and then it's got like a humanoid birdish face. It's weird, and it's got multiple legs and arms and a tail. What is this thing? This is kind of like some weird imp, the creature from the depths of hell. It really is an odd spirit, but it's a fun one. Weird one to play, weird one to get to grips with. I mean, what does it say its complexity is? It says moderate, but I would probably put this one at high, because It's an interesting one. He's got some weird presence track stuff. I mean, second one on here, push a Dahan from one of your lands. That's a weird one to have. I'm surprised Thunder Speaker doesn't have more of these. Pretty straightforward presence track, although you have this one here, gain energy equal to your card plays, which is quite an interesting one. So you go heavy on the bottom row is usually preferable for me. But this one messes around a lot with the strife tokens. So if you've got the energy, when you add strife, you can add more strife. Strife is a token where when you place it on an invader, it means they don't ravage. So they don't deal any damage. Very useful defensively. In fact, there you go. Yeah, very high defense. Pretty good offense, not that much in fear, bit of control, but utility is high. You don't get a lot of utility spirits, and that's mainly because of the innate powers that you have here. Why don't you let them fight is just a weird thing. Look at it. 3 of 4 different types of elements that you need to do weird things. You know, you can make it slow if you want with 3 moons, which I think you can kind of do easily. But then you've got, if you happen to find air, add strife. If you happen to find sun, get things to deal damage to each other. If you happen to find red, you can get more beasts and gather them. It's just such a weird power. And this guy does not care about letting the Dahan kill themselves. You know, don't pair this guy up with Thunder Speaker for whatever reason. But yeah, this guy just wants to stir up trouble. Let the Dahan and invaders fight each other. If it clears them both out, not too particularly fussed really. But here's the reason I really like this guy. I mean, I like this guy in general. I like using strife. I like using this power. But this is what I love. Discard minor powers from the deck until you get one that targets a land. Use its text effects on target land immediately, ignoring range restrictions. Okay, and treat all ores as ands. This is such a fun power. It is entirely luck based. You essentially discard a minor power, and then you essentially, if you've got the innates, get a new minor power in the turn. You just have no idea what minor power it's going to be. This is so much fun. It can fizzle horribly. You could get the worst powers at the worst time, but it can lead to some crazy power turns that you weren't expecting. You might find something that just saves your bacon. But I like the idea that as well as collecting more powers from the growth option, I can also just randomly generate even more different powers. So this is an ultimate variety as the spice of life spirit. And if you have the innates, you can even forget a power card to gain the one you just used immediately to your hand. So you not only use the power, but you then gain the card. This guy just cycles through so many powers it's unreal, and I love him for it. That is why this guy is one of my favorites to play, particularly in solo mode. You know, I don't know if I love... The fact that he can fizzle out does make it tricky to, you know, ensure that he's always going to do well. But I do just love making those making those things like go crazy. So, spur on with Words of Fire or Manifestation. I'm gonna go as high. I don't know. Let's stick him in there for the moment. Spur on. Is he good enough to be one of my top tier spirits? Especially as I look at what remains. He's so close. I don't think he's quite... The fact that he can fizzle out badly with those minor powers is probably why I'm going to stick him in Spur with Words of Fire. But yeah, definitely a good, fun one to do. Hello, Dill. Hello. So, right, we've got 9, 5. Aha, this one. Yes, I played him again this week a couple of times. Shadows Flicker Like Flame or something? Is it Shadows Flicker Like Flame? Here we go. This is one of the last of the low complexity spirits, from the original game. Now, some people, in fact a lot of people, don't like this spirit. Because, to be fair, he's one of the weaker ones in the game. He's not the best against high difficulty stuff, although I don't tend to play that high difficulty. I tend to only play level 3 and 4 of adversaries. I only play a 5 or a 6 if I'm with multiplayer, and even then I can't remember if I've ever played at level 6. But, you know, this one does struggle a little bit and doesn't have the most powerful of, you know, tracks. I mean, he starts off pretty weak, gets a bit of energy eventually, gets a few card plays, but not much. And certainly the special rule that he has is it's nice to basically say, all right, I can basically have any range on the board. And granted, that's very useful in co-op mode because you can basically go all the way across the board as long as you've got the energy. In solo mode, not as useful though. And this ability here, Darkness Swallows the Unwary. Gather Explorers as a fast action is pretty sweet. Destroying them is even better, especially if you get Fear. You don't often really get that last one, if at all, so you might as well ignore that. So you are basically just doing these two in that. But here's why I, on the other hand, watch this and love it. Because, well, love, not love, but really, really like. Offense and control, fine. Fear. Look how high this fear is. Not a lot of defense and utility, you gotta be quite crafty with this one. But if you can get certain powers out of that deck, and yeah, this one is a little bit on the fragile side, this one is just so good at generating fear. It's one of the best spirits for generating fear from the low complexity stuff. It's a weird thing. I mean, this is the closest to a spider spirit you're gonna get, but it's like a multi-armed thing, alien xenomorph with shadow that's on fire. It's a pretty interesting concept. It's a weird thing, and I'd be pretty scared of it if I saw it there. But yeah, I really like playing this one because I love playing fear strategies. I like any spirit who generates a high amount of fear, and so I played them this week, and I used one of the aspects with him, Madness. It replaces this rule entirely and is a simple... It's got two abilities. One of them's not particularly great, but the first one is fantastic. When you add a presence to the board, you get to add a strife token. Doesn't sound like much, but believe me, the problem that he has with defense is instantly solved with that power. Because you try to get some more defense stuff out of the deck, but being able to basically say that as long as you're not reclaiming cards that turn, you get to put out a strife token where you want it. You know, it's like, oh, the land next to me is about to ravage this time and it's going to do 4 damage. Oh, well, presence will go there. It protects it. The Dahan can do their business, which generates more fear if they kill off the enemy. But it also means that you don't have to fear about your presence getting destroyed. It's such a good aspect power for this guy. It doesn't suddenly make him top tier, but in solo mode particularly, it's a fantastic ability. And so this guy propelled up this week. You know, I was a little bit like, I like it, but don't love him beforehand, like middle of the road. But yeah, I really like him now. So, you know, Shadow Flicker Light Flame, not a favorite among other people, but for me, still does pretty good. So he's definitely a spur on with Words of Fire. So I do enjoy that spirit. Next up, we have 8. So the last one on the list. Here we go. What do we got here? I'm one who's not a big fan of shadows. I'm mostly solo player. Well, I'm mostly a solo player, but use them with the aspects. I prefer other fear spirits heavily. Haven't tried aspects, but the strife mechanic sounds key. Yeah, like I say, try shadows with some of those aspect cards. Believe me, it gets better. Okay, so we're doing Volcano Looming High, or whatever it's called. Volcano Looming High. Hate is not the word I would use. Frustrating is more the word I would use for this spirit. To this day, I can usually figure out, okay, a spirit is meant to work in this way, a spirit is meant to work in this way, and try it. A couple of them I struggle with, like Stone and Thunder Speaker, but usually I get the gist, it's just a case of piloting it. I have no idea what on earth I'm supposed to do with this guy. This guy is just frustratingly bad for me. I've never won with this spirit. I have at least won a game with all the other spirits, right, in some form or another. May have been dragged out games in some respects, like Finder of Pass Unseen was a win, but it was a dragged out last minute win. But this guy, I can't win with. I don't know how you're supposed to pilot him. You're stuck in one location, you're destroying your own presence and not easily getting it back. You need crazy amount of innates in order to, you know, to get these high level bits. You're unlikely to do them that often, and granted, yeah, it is insanely cool if you are able to pull it off, but I really hate this guy. I really do hate this guy. You know, you really have got to hope that you can get your power cards to match these innates, otherwise you're in big trouble. But I have yet to win. What have I played him about? I think I played him about 5 times in quick succession, trying to figure out how on earth you play him. Still can't figure it out. And my mate will constantly tell me that this is a pretty cool spirit and you should really go for it, or try it this way. Or they admit that he's quite a hard one to use, and so it's not surprisingly that I'm not as good with him. But as Vincent said, for me, he is just one giant chocolate teapot. I get the concept. It's a cool picture, and I like the idea of being able to go erupt and just go boom, but he has very little control. He has not a huge amount of fear generation, very little defense. So with no control and defense, you're kind of at the mercy of the invaders and hoping that you can kill them quick enough, but you can't kill them that quick. They kind of just overrun you while you're stuck in the mountains. Honestly, just cannot figure this guy out. I'm sure somebody's going to show me just how insanely cool he can be, but I find that it's very situational when Volcano can really do what he needs to do. And in solo in particularly, really do not like him in solo mode. So yeah, you are sleep and never waken. Do not care about you. So, somebody show me how to pilot this one brilliantly locally. That'd be great. But, I'll wait for someone to show me rather than take this one out of the box again. Alrighty, 7 more to go, guys. 7 more. Right, lucky number... Ooh, lucky number... Sorry. Get it open. Number 5. This one. I haven't had a huge amount of experience with Memory of Ages, whatever it's called. Shifting Memory of Ages. Has been a while. Right. Yes. Doesn't have a lot of influence, board influence abilities. Mainly, it's just the fact that this guy is the guy you play when you want to have, like, the uber major power. He can get stupid amounts of energy. I mean, look at this. His presence track already gives him a bunch of energy. And he can, just at a pinch, get... +9 energy if he wants. Come on, Wi-Fi, work with me here. It's all right. I noticed the blip. But yeah, as I was saying, can get a crazy amount of energy, but mainly doesn't play a lot of cards. Plays, doesn't play a lot of cards at all. I mean, discard 2 element markers for an extra card play. Pretty expensive. Always gets a lot of element markers, which is cool. So, and the extra powers on cards are pretty easy to trigger with this guy. But not a lot of card plays, mainly just about energy. Not the most interesting of growth tracks apart from the +9, which is really cool. With this one though, it's mostly about A, the elements, B, a bit of defense. You can do defend 2, defend 3, or defend 2 per card in the invader discard pile, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, so he's got a bit of defense, as you can see. Defense is pretty high. It's all about the utility though. This part here. When you would forget a power card, you may instead discard it. So major powers do not thin out your cards. Sweet! This is basically one that you don't care about getting minor powers. When you've got this one option here to gain a power card, you get majors. Get majors. Occasionally maybe get a minor, but because you don't have to forget the power in order to get the major, you're the person who's going to do the big attacks. Now, that is pretty fragile though, because it does depend a lot on what major powers you get. It can be slightly problematic, but it's not selling it well from this page because a lot of the best things that he can do is down to his actual power cards. The power cards he's got allow other spirits to get power cards quicker, which can be really, really good for certain other spirits. So, it can go for a sprint for phenomenal energy growth or build up to be a late game powerhouse, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, loves major powers and wants to take them early and often. It's a fragile one. It does depend heavily on what major powers you get. Because if you get the wrong major powers, then you could be struggling. Especially if you don't find a really good offensive one. But it's still good fun to use. I prefer to use him in a co-op game rather than solo though. So for me, he's kind of in the middle of the road. I like him, but I don't love him. But occasionally I decide, you know what, I feel like going down the major power route because typically I tend to go down the minor power route and spam a lot of cards. And then maybe at the very end get a major power that does the job for me. But I don't tend to go very major power heavy. with spirits. But with this guy, I would decide otherwise. All right, what have we got left? Oh, sorry. Yep, we got 6 left. 6 left. Okie doke. We have 6. Vengeance as a burning plague. Plague. Oh, I love the name. I like the picture. I mean, this is an evil-looking name. As I look at this thing, it's like, I am going to eat you. I'm going to eat you with my salamander teeth. It's like, he's quite an evil-looking spirit. Love the picture. This one's hit or miss for me, though. I played him a bit this week, and this is all about disease. And disease is a bit of a fickle marker to use. It basically stops the enemy building in an area. This guy wants disease everywhere. The problem is, it's hard to get disease. It's even harder to keep it on the board. Although, with Vengeance, you can essentially decide that when somebody has... where's the ability? Here we go. Yeah, when disease would prevent a build, you can decide, you know what, disease doesn't prevent you building, you don't remove the token, and instead you get fear. I like to do this pretty often. I like generating fear with this one, and, you know, his fear generation is not bad, but he's meant to be a more offensive spirit, and he doesn't have a lot of defense and control, which makes this one quite a tricky one to pilot. But what I don't like is the fact that he's got 2 very different paths for the innate abilities. One of which goes very heavy disease, and the other one is more just about having the innate symbols and just going heavy damage. You should be able to do Savage Revenge pretty well if you go down that route. You know, you can do quite a bit of damage to some towns and cities, all good. This one, though, is all dependent on disease. Not only does it also hurt Dahan, which is not a good thing, but that's a very weird mix of innate symbols to get. And it's alright saying 1 damage per disease, and possibly making it 2 or 3 damage per disease. Well, yeah, right. I mean, this one here, you are very unlikely to get 3, 3, and 5. Yeah, good luck with that. So you're barely even getting 1, 2, and 4. So you're really just getting the first bit. That's not particularly powerful. And even if you do manage to get the second level of that, per disease. He's only got 1 power that allows him to add a disease on the board, and it's not even a very good power. It literally, I think, does 1 fear and add a disease marker. That's it. That's not a particularly good card. And there's not a lot of cards in the deck, particularly in the minor section, that add more disease. So you don't really get a lot of disease on the board to really make this innate power worth it. I've never gone down this route, really. I've always gone down the second bit because the first bit just kind of sucks. Now, you can add a disease with a growth option, but 90% of the time, I would rather stick a presence out. Get more energy, get more card plays, get those 2 innates, which you really are going to need those element markers. Rarely do I want to use a growth option to add 1 disease marker. And in order to keep them on the board, you've basically got to say, yeah, you know what, opponent, you can build. Yeah, go on and build. I'll generate the fear. And it does make for a very good fun fear spirit now and again. But he's a fun one to pilot. I like the concept, I like the picture, I like the theme with this one. I like the puzzle, the trickiness of this one. He's definitely a high complexity spirit to do well with. And he's kind of like, you know, he's not that fussed about blight being on the area as well, so it's a bit of a different play style. But unlike Stone's Unyielding Defiance, I still enjoy it. And I gotta admit, Vengeance as a Burning Plague is just a great name. That is a great name for a spirit. So, I have some issues with some of his powers. I wish you could do a lot more with the disease than you kind of do with this spirit. But he's kind of middle of the road. So, Jungle Hungers, I like him fine. I'll pick him every now and again, but I just don't expect to do that well with him. Okie doke, what are we left with then? We're left with 5 of them, with 1 hour 20. Ooh. Alright, hope people are agreeing with, well, some people are going to disagree with these choices, but we'll go with it. Alright, let's have a look. Number 2. Oh, bringer of night, bringer of dreams and nightmares. You came and you gave me a really fun game of Spirit Island. I love you to bits, oh nightmares. Yes. I love this spirit. This is one of my top favorite spirits, possibly top 3. I don't know what my number 1 spirit is, really. I mean, that's why I wanted to do a tier maker list rather than do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it would just be impossible to try and rank them in numbers. But this, I love this guy. Jona hates her. Jona from One Pip Wonder hates this one. Granted, was it too scary for you? Come on, I love this spirit. High complexity. I think it's the only other high complexity spirit in the base set, because normally it's oceans. This is such a cool, different way to play the game that appeals to my heart. My cold, black, fear-inducing heart. This one is all about the fear. There is no spirit that generates fear like this guy does. It's kind of insane. Now, it does make him weak in other areas, though, although you can do pretty good defense with some of his initial power cards if you play it at the right time. But when it comes to fear, this guy just generates it like crazy. Can play a decent amount of cards. Can, both routes kind of work with him. I forget which route I tend to do with this guy. I tend to go more top route, I think, with this one rather than bottom, although getting to free card plays as quick as possible is not necessarily a bad thing either, but I tend to be more along the top. Get to free, never go above that. Screw this any bit of there, it's not worth it. Forget that because it's a wasted space, so if you are going to go down the bottom, you only go as far as this. But really, you mainly go on top. It's a bit of a flaw. You do kind of have to, shall we say, pigeonhole yourself with this one, but all the fear. Your powers never cause damage. They can't destroy anything. So you are literally getting the Dahan to do your dirty work for you all the time, which is fun. But when your powers would destroy, you instead generate a bunch of fear, depending on what it is, and then you push everything that it would destroy. That means that on top of all your normal fear generation, this fear generation goes off the charts if you can get some offensive power going. But then on top of this, your innates are actually pretty good. This one, you get to turn a face down fear card face up, so you actually know what's coming. And you might be able to get an element as well. Free moon is easy to get with this spirit. I think most of his cards have moon, so turning up face down fear cards is very handy because they're kind of hit and miss as to whether they work well or not. This one allows you to know that coming up is something that could save your bacon. Like, oh, the next fear card allows us to defend where Dahan is. Can I get the Dahan over there, please? It is useful information. But then on the right here, very easy to trigger this one. I mean, you will pretty much always trigger that first level, apart from very rare occasions. Good chance you'll probably trigger the middle one. After mid-game, you'll probably be doing the other one as well. So this is a free power, which you're always going to be somewhere within range 0 of invaders, that generates free fear. Now, in a multiplayer game, this guy is a little bit harder to use because you have more fear markers that you have to go through, because it's 4 per player. So if you're playing a 3 or 4 player with this guy, trying to get through terror fear cards when you have 12 or 16 fear to go through, particularly if other players aren't going heavy fear, is a tall order. In solo mode though, if you can be crafty with the Dahan and get them to do your dirty work for damage, the amount of fear that you can generate and go through means that you can really make this a fear victory spirit. In fact, frankly, you have to make this a fear victory spirit. You're really unlikely to be killing enough things off to get terror level 2 or 3 wins. This is the guy where you go, I am rushing to the fear victory. It's my favorite way to win. It's my favorite way to play. It's all about the fear. I love that picture. I think this guy is like such a creepy looking spirit, with this kind of almost, it kind of almost looks a bit like Skynet AI type thing with this skull face. It's like Skeletor, darker version of Skeletor or something. It's a really cool picture. Love this spirit. It requires a very different play style, and it's just the idea that you can basically just get off my land, scare them off the island. It's how I like to play. You are hands down easily a manifestation of power and glory spirit for me. Right, 4 more to go, and we're going to go for 4. Shroud of Silent Mist. This one I have very little experience with, so I don't know how much I can really say on this, but friends of mine have played the spirit more than I have, and saying that, I played a game recently. My opponent was Shroud of Silent Mist. Who was I playing? It could have been playing Many Minds Movers 1, Or maybe I was playing... No, I was playing Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares. I remember, yes. We, what was it? Looks like the robot from Lost in Space Netflix. I haven't watched that series, but okay, I'll have to look that up as a picture. But yes, I remember. It was a 2-player game. We played it on Halloween. I don't normally celebrate Halloween. It's like, it's for kids, whatever. But I might watch a horror movie like Alien, one of the classics. Or I might play a horror-themed board game. So a friend of mine, we went to a local game cafe. We got out Spirit Island. I wasn't even thinking of Halloween at the time, but I thought, you know what, it's Halloween. Let's play some scary spirits. So I played Bringer of Dream and Nightmares, and he played Shroud of Silent Mist. It was an interesting game, to say the least, and we did win it, although we were on the back foot for quite a while. But it's an interesting spirit, this one. It just requires a very different style of play, because this guy actually wants invaders to stick around, but be hurt. Essentially you've got very limited energy, so you're never going major powers with this. You really are not. Your special rules will not get you enough energy really to get to major powers. And the idea is kind of weird. It doesn't have the most interesting growth tracks, but you want to get your presence out. You very rarely are going to do much on the top one, but No, it's not a Final Girl crossover episode. In fact, to be honest, I have no idea if I'm going to go for Final Girl or not. I've already got Hostage Negotiator. But going down the bottom route is quite cool. You can get a lot of cards played. You can move presence. You can get innates. You can reclaim. You can get quite a lot of good, cool utility down the bottom. Although, getting presence out does require you to make certain you're very crafty with your cards. But here, the special rule. Where's the special rule? Here you go. Invaders into hand don't heal damage in your lands. But when time passes at the end of the round, so basically the end of the round, 1 fear, max 5 per land with damaged invaders. 1 energy per 3 lands. And this is what I mean. If you're getting 1 per 3 lands, that's not a lot of energy gain. But when targeting a land with a power, you can gather your presence into the target. So you can shift your presence around all over the place. So range is not a problem. And if you gain a power card that doesn't have fire on it, which, let's face it, you don't want anything with fire, you gain even more energy. So you can get trickles of energy, which is why I kind of say go down the bottom route mainly. But it's not too difficult to get this combination of innates either. Moon, air, and water tend to combine quite well. But this is the weird thing. You've got some good damage ability, so good offense. You've got a decent amount of control with the Dahanan Explorers, hence control. Generates quite a lot of fear, so with Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares, it really was actually quite a good one. Just doesn't have a lot of defense, because the hard thing with this spirit is trying to get a balance between, right, I want a bunch of damaged invaders in my land, but I also don't want too many invaders full stop. I've got to kill them eventually, but when do I kill them? Maybe now, maybe a bit later. And you can imagine that me and my mate were having some interesting discussions, bearing in mind that I can't kill my lot, and he's deliberately not trying to kill his lot. So it was a very weird game, but a good horror thematic one, and we did win. We went crazy on the theme, and on the fear, sorry. And like I say, I like this one for being a good fear generator as well. During time passes, it's just auto-generating fear. So this one can do a lot of fear compared to the other ones, but it's a weird playstyle, not one that I'm overly used to. And so I don't tend to go mad for the spirit, but, well, it kind of depends. I don't play him as often, but it's a fear generator, and I do like the puzzle that comes with it. So this one is a spur on with words and fire spirit, I think. So yeah, we'll go with, shall we go with that? I don't know. These are the spirits I tend to play first, even though he is a fear generator. I do like my fear generators. It's just really hard to sort of balance what he's doing. I'll put him in spur on. Spur on's fine. Right, 1, 2, or 3. 2. Downpour drenches the world, or whatever it is. The last of the birds, I believe. I think this is the other promo level 2 one. And this one is basically a case of how useful is this power card? Because it doesn't play all its power cards in a reclaim cycle, because it essentially likes to reclaim them quite often. But because of its rainfall one, it gets to spam minor powers crazy amount of times. It's fairly basic growth tracks, gain presence, move, discard power cards. And it's like, why would you be discarding them? Well, this guy treats your sacred sites as wetlands, because after all, as a bird, it's rainfall, it wants things to be wet. But this is the weird thing it has. For each 2 water you have, and believe me, you can get a lot of water icons during any of those phases, you can either gain more energy, so you can gain a shed ton of energy with this character, or repeat a land targeting power card by paying its cost again. If you are playing minor powers with this one, I mean, it's not even so much like, oh, I'm going to play lots of cards. It's playing the same power multiple times, as long as you can meet the cost. If it's only a 1 energy card, though, or even a 0 energy card, spam, 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 maximum 5 times. You can really go crazy with this one. The innate powers are a little bit tricky to do. I mean, you can get this much water, because you can really get a lot of water icons. So you could even go as high as the 7 one, although 9 water is a little bit wishful thinking. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maximum you'll get is 6 off your presence track, and even then you need to be able to play 3 cards in order to get another 3. So, yeah, you're really not getting 9 unless somebody's helping you with that one. So you don't tend to do a huge amount with these innate powers, although you can get a little bit of defense, a little bit of counteract damage reduction, which is quite cool, and even more energy. So the innates are not terrible, but good defense, reasonable amount of fear. So, and spamming some of those fear-generating powers that are cheap in the minor section can actually be pretty sweet when you do them. But not a lot of offensive power, not a lot of control. So in solo mode, you have to really bank on what powers you get. Whew, sorry, running out of breath. But yeah, I enjoy this one. I don't love the spirit, but I don't dislike it either. It's definitely, I think, for me, more of a middle-of-the-road spirit. Jungle Hungers, probably. So yeah, Jungle Hungers, middle of the road. I enjoy this one from time to time, and would certainly play him more than these other ones. Looking at the rest, yeah, I think that's about right, actually. Two more. And we're going to go with number 1. Number 1. Spread of Rampant Green, or whatever it's called. Rampant. You are called. What are you called? Where are you? I think you were in Branch and Claw. Oh, there you go. Yeah. A Spread of Rampant Green. This guy is easily one of the most powerful spirits in this game. Bar none. This is so good. Fairly good at dealing with towns. Terrible at handling explorers, yes. But can get his presence out stupidly fast. He is your best friend in a co-op game because he's able to get your presence out quicker, which for some of the slow build-up spirits is godlike. But if you're playing it solo, always you add a presence. You will never be denied a presence, but you could get 2 out and around. You got a fair bit to do, but you have a special power card that can get your presence out even quicker. The speed at which this guy gets his presence out is ridiculous. Now, you're looking at these tracks and thinking, well, his tracks don't seem very good. I mean, a couple of green, a bit of energy, some card plays. Where's the benefit here? This lot. His innates are really cool, as well as his special rule. When an invader would ravage or build on a land with your presence sacred sites, you can prevent it by destroying a presence. And you might think, well, that's horrible. But when adding presence to the board via growth, you can use your destroyed presence. So essentially what you would probably do is you would essentially empty out your presence tracks, and then whatever you've destroyed during the game to save your bacon from things like ravaging or building, which, trust me, you do fairly often, you then recover eventually anyway. So you're never really low on presence, and you don't need that much on the board. You just need sacred sites in the problem areas. So he's stupidly good. And as people say, yeah, who wants another presence? Me, 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 me. Your co-op partners will adore you for playing this spirit. But even then, his innates. You're going to have plenty of green. I mean, you've got 2 there. All you've got to do is get your powers out and find a couple more, and you can easily do some decent... Well, 1 damage to a town or city is pretty rubbish. But you should be able to repeat it, and then repeat it again. So you could chop and, just chop at the occasional town every now and again. It's all really good. But the defense, really good. You should be able to get a defend 2 without too much trouble. Defend 4 probably. You're very unlikely to get the bottom one, so don't even bother. But this extra bit of defense, on top of the fact that you can prevent the ravages, makes this one of the best defensive spirits in the game. You know, his defense is as high as it possibly can get, but still some good defense and still some good utility. The only thing I don't like about him really is the fact that he doesn't generate a huge amount of fear. But honestly, when you start killing off the enemy, you'll generate fear in some respect anyway. But you do have to basically get on the offensive at some point, otherwise you're going to struggle to win the game. Because you probably won't win this by fear victory, but you should be able to easily get out a terror-free victory, or possibly even a terror 2 if you play your cards right. So he's very powerful. I love being able to empty my presence out like crazy. I love being a support character in multiplayer. So maybe I've played this one a little bit too much though, in the sense that I've maybe overplayed this guy, but he's good. He's really good. What can I say? He's a fantastic spirit. You know, love playing him. He's always wanted. He's easily a manifestation of power and glory. So, yeah, there you go. There's probably my top 5 spirits there. Can the last one, Wildfire, can Wildfire get onto there? Well, no. Not necessarily in a bad way, though. Heart of the Wildfire, the final spirit to talk about here, is basically just offense, 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 offense. I mean, look at him. His offense thing is off the charts. Generates a lot of fear. Not a lot of defense. Decent amount of control, though. His innates are a little bit all over the shop. I mean, yes, even if you get these innates here, you're 7, 5, 2, and 2. It's hard. It's hard to trigger a lot of these innates. But damage. Damage. Blight. Remove blight. Cause blight. Damage. Damage. Remove blight. This one, if you imagine that Rampant Green makes your friends go, I love you, Rampant Green. This one makes your partners piss themselves, basically. It's like, it's horrifically bad for co-op partners. I mean, it's not to say it doesn't work in multiplayer, but people fear you when you play this one, because you are outright destroying the land to do more damage. You know, you don't have much in the way of, you know, kind of growth, but you can get some sick amount of energy from this guy. You know, you get a decent amount of energy, you get all the fire stuff, but here you go. After you add or move presence after setup, if the land goes to, for each fire showing on your track, do a damage. So, lots of damage. If 2 or more are showing on your tracks, though, which will happen pretty quickly, add a blight. And then push everybody out. And if you add, only do the effects once. Blight added due to spirit effects, does not destroy your presence, but it can cascade. This is the thing, as Vincent says. All the other players, stop putting Blight on the board. Yeah, because you can regain it. I mean, the burn land regrows is a good way to get Blight off the board, but you are juggling Blight as if it's just like little balls or whatever. It's like you are playing with fire, literally, because getting too much Blight equals lose. So you're really, you know, gambling on what you can do with this spirit. But suffice to say, he's fun to play. Although in multiplayer, it's funny just to have the co-op partners like freak out when you bring this onto the table. In solo mode though, this guy's a legend in solo mode. The amount of damage you are doing on your one board is insane. It's just so good at mopping up stuff. And if you can get more fire symbols from your cards, to which there are some pretty nice minor ones that have that symbol, you can really go to town on the invaders. This is one of those invaders where it's like, you know what, I don't really care about getting a fear victory. Eventually I will get to terror level 2, and because I'm doing all this damage, you won't have any towns or cities to speak of. You know, you could probably even wipe out every single invader with this one if you get really lucky, although I've yet to do that myself, and I don't tend to aim for that. But yeah, this one's a good fun one to do, but very fragile. You gotta be careful. You cannot go nuts with this. You've got to pay big attention to this bit here that says add a blight when you've got 2 or more of these things showing, because after you add after setup, if 2 fire or more, as after setup when you add a presence, you're going to be adding presence quite often, which means a lot of blight. You only have 3 blight to play with in solo mode before the place becomes like a blighted island. You really do have to be a little bit careful. So, not the easiest to play in solo, but can have good fun. Cool in a 2-player game, but 3 or 4-player game, people are going to fear you coming, believe me. It is good fun though. good fun. It's not the most interesting looking spirit in the world, but it's basically just a fireball that runs around and kills stuff. You're kind of middle of the road. You know, I like you, but I don't go mad for you. It's a bit like Vengeance as a Burning Plague. I find that he has times where he just completely falls on his face, and times when he's stupidly powerful. But I enjoy these Jungle Hunger ones. They're just ones I don't play as often. So I'll enjoy them when I play them, but I'll usually pick one of these ones first, which is why they kind of go in the middle of the road. Whew. And there you have it. 1 hour 40. Long stream, but this is my Spirit Island ranking. So 24 spirits in a game that I absolutely love. 3 spirits that I would not lose sleep if they burnt the next day. Finder of Paths, Stone's Defiance, Volcano. Don't like these 3 spirits. Drift Down into Slumber. Don't mind them, but again, I'm not that fussed if I don't play them again. Keeper of the Wilds, Wild Strength of the Earth, and Thunder Speaker. And I know I'm going to get so much hate for putting Thunder Speaker down there, so going to be a little bit insane. Hey Judy, hour and 40 minutes late, but don't worry, you can watch this after the fact. That's fine. Good to see you though. Jungle Hungers though, these in the middle. You know, we got the very complex Fractured here. We got the co-op like major power lover here. Disease, fire, spamming. I think it's because these ones are very specific. Like, you almost have to play them in a fairly specific way, or half of their powers don't tend to work as well, sometimes, like in the case of Vengeance. So, you know, it's kind of fun like that. And let's say, Keeper is down in D, mainly just because I don't have as much fun with him. I get that he can be powerful, but the other thing with wild tokens is that it's kind of random as to whether they're any good. I mean, they're good if you use them for damage, but the whole thing of preventing explore means you kind of are guessing where the opponent could go, and the AI might just skip a lot of your explore tokens. And like I say, he can be powerful. I just don't tend to have much fun with him. I like to let other people have him. So there's that. And then more in Spur On with Words of Fire than I thought. But yeah, I enjoy playing these spirits. They are very useful. I find them fun to play for different reasons. You know, they have their flaws. They have their fragilities now and again. But overall, I like them. And then these 5 are ones that I will never grow tired of playing. I love Sharp Fang's theme and style of play with the fear and killing lone explorers. Many Minds Movers, one again with the beast and so much fear generation. Love, love, love. Oceans, fear and the ocean thematicness and the cool thing of drowning invaders like Kirby. Rampant Green, all the presents you ever want. And Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares, all those fear. I mean, as you can see, there is clearly a theme with the spirits I play here. High fear, high fear, high fear. Not the biggest amount of fear. This is kind of the outlier. And to be fair, I would actually probably say that if I was to rank these top 5, I don't know which one would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I can certainly tell you that Rampant Green would be number 5. You know, he is just in that tier. So, fear, 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 fear. 4 spirits that are all high fear. They beat out Rampant, and they beat out all these other ones. Because these other ones can cause fear. I mean, I like Shadows Flicker Like Flame. Lightning can do a bit of fear. Shroud of Silent Mist is very good fear. They're just not quite up to the level of these ones in terms of how much I enjoy them, but yeah. Hello to you, Leon. That's fine. Catch the video later. I mean, I suspect a lot of people are going to watch this after the fact. Maybe in audio form, but I wanted to try this out. So, you know, I'd be interested to get people's thoughts in the comments who watched this after the fact. You know, how good is this Tiermaker? Does it work for you? You know, I could use it for other things. I mean, obviously, I want to do top 10s more often. You know, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 with board games. But maybe for stuff that isn't board game related, or stuff like this that's very specific, like things within a board game to rank. You know, I could do stuff like Tiermaker. It could work. I can save the list. I mean, let me save that list. So, Spirit Island... favorite spirits live stream. Save. Please wait while we generate your image. What? Okay, what are you doing here? Are you generating my image or not? Whoa, here we go. Right. Okay, so I've got the image. Download and save. Excellent. All right, cool. So I've got my list. So it's there, I can bring it up if need be, and I've got the photo. But yeah, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what I can do with these on a regular basis. Get off this stupid advert. No, go away. Go away. Bad. All right, yeah, people are enjoying it on this one. So, yeah, I mean, it's a nice little change. I'm not going to replace top 10s with this. This will be kind of an ad hoc thing. I'll be interested in what kind of other ideas I could use this for. Like I say, stuff like this where I'm talking about a board game and talking about stuff within it. God, yeah, I had a feeling somebody would say this. A multiverse hero tier list. Everybody's been asking me to do this again. I did it in a podcast about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And it was hard to do then. I mean, there's a lot of heroes now, and I love Sentinels in the Multiverse, but I haven't played it to death in a long time. It would take me a long time to go through all those. Maybe I could do some of the heroes, or maybe do them up to a point. I'm not sure I'd want to do every single hero in the entire franchise, though. You know, this one I've been playing a lot recently, so it was a bit easier to do this one. Sentinels, I'd have to get that one out and play it a lot again. But I won't rule it out. Could be done. Could try it with something else. Anyway, don't forget, credit to Jona from One Pip Wonder and Dan who did this in the first place. You know, that's what gave me the idea and the inspiration to do this list. So go check out their list. I mean, you can see just from this minor spoiler here, they don't like shadows as much as me. They don't like oceans as much as me. And Rampant and Lightning, they're kind of on similar par. But yeah, you're going to notice that we differ quite a bit on what spirits we like and what style of play we have. So by all means, go and check out her video as well. It was good fun to watch. And like I say, it was the inspiration for this one as well. So on that note, time to head off. I'm going to go watch some Alice in Borderlands now. I only watched episode 1, so I'm intrigued enough to continue watching it because I did enjoy Squid Game. But thanks for everybody who has joined me tonight. I know it's not been the most popular stream in terms of people that are here, you know, in terms of people, you know, only 16 odd people. It didn't really cap at a high amount, but then this is a very specific list on a Saturday where people are probably doing other better things. So like I say, it'll be interesting to see if this one picks up afterwards. But by all means, if you're a Spirit Island fan, let me know which ones you really disagree with on my tier list, because that'd be interesting in the debate. But failing that, I hope that those of you who are here had a good time, and I hope those of you who watch this later enjoy it as well, whether it's in video or audio form. So I'm going to start signing out though. Thanks to everybody who has joined me. Love you all. Remember, it's only a game. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night or Saturday daytime, depending on where you are. And I'll see you very, very soon on the next video. What have I got coming up? Detail review of Tabanusi. Express reviews of Brian Boro and Shinkansen 0K. And I will probably have to get another top 10 in the works somewhere. Not sure which one, though. Oh, yeah, and an express review of Origins First Builders is coming as well. But, yeah, I need to get another top 10 in the works. So, whether that will be a live one or one I do pre-recorded, we'll have to see. I need to get hold of some people. But, yeah, more stuff on the way. So, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now, everyone.